Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 332, How Doubt Plagues the Mind, Part 2. There is a price to pay when you sell your soul to doubt. The podcast objectives are: reveal the cost of selling your soul to doubt and analyze the downfall of the strongholds of despair, distrust, and self-reliance. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. It's going to cost you. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 64 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we analyzed how doubt plagues the mind. Specifically, we revealed how doubt deceives your personality and then empowers it to defeat all the good actors within your thought dimension. Upon obtaining this unlikely victory, your personality will feel emboldened by its new position of dominance within your thought dimension. That is, until the bill comes due. Consider this, my friends, and be advised. Doubt will most assuredly keep its promise. It will most certainly empower your personality to rise to a place of dominion within your mind, but it will come at a price. Look here. This is the fine print your personality did not consider when it signed over its soul to doubt. See, it was so fixated on protecting itself and its own interests. It was more interested in thought dimension dominance than it was in understanding what it would cost you. The question of the hour is, what did it cost you? The answer: it cost your personality a series of strongholds deriving from doubt, namely 3 strongholds: despair, distrust, and self-reliance. If you recall, despair, distrust, and self-reliance are 3 of the 80 degrees of lawlessness, specifically the 3 degrees which make up doubt. Ergo, by obtaining these 3 strongholds, you become further entrenched in lawlessness. Now, this speaks to a crucial nature of strongholds we have discussed in prior podcasts, and yet many do not consider it. Thus, seeing as it is a key reason why many succumb to doubt, I have been led to share it with you again, and I advise you to bookmark it. Every stronghold within your mind, your heart, and your will is a derivative of the primary stronghold at the foundation of the mountain of lawlessness, similar to a satellite station. Ergo, your acquisition of the various strongholds deriving from doubt increases the strength and the pervasiveness of the primary stronghold, making it extremely difficult to break. And yet, it must be broken, or we will surely die. Alas, this is what your personality did not consider. This is what your personality did not understand when it signed the dotted line. Yes, doubt would make it the supreme being of the thought dimension. But at the end of the day, it was so enthralled with thought dominion dominance that your personality did not hear doubt saying, I can make you the supreme being, but it's going to cost you. They are not in control. Now, let's talk about that cost for just a while, beginning with the leading degree of doubt. Enter despair. Ah, despair. What a crook. Colorful language, true. And if you don't know why I'm making this statement, allow me to tell you. Despair is a chain around the neck of your personality that dictates which emotions will be set off in order to manipulate your feelings. Here lies the problem, and we have already discussed it in prior podcasts. Vis-a-vis, despair will almost always trigger your most violent emotions. For example, fear, anxiety, horror, and triumph. While these emotions will most certainly elevate your personality to a position of dominance, your personality is all the while being manipulated by despair. Here is how. Every time you initiate an emotional response, your personality begins to take on the nature of those responses. Consequently, if despair causes you to fear, your personality will begin acquiring a fearful nature, forcing your personality to limit what you can be and what actions you will eventually take. The same rule applies to every emotion. Due to the manipulation of despair, your personality will be governed by a wide range of emotions beyond its control, which will, in turn, force you to become someone you don't recognize and, honestly, someone you don't want to be. This is why we see people become men and women we don't recognize over time. It's because they are not in control. Rather, they have a stronghold. And on this particular occasion, that stronghold is one of despair. Why many become mentally unstable. Now, that's just the leading cost you pay when you incur a stronghold of despair, i.e., the foundational degree of doubt. The next cost you must pay derives from the focal degree of doubt. Enter distrust. As the focal degree of doubt, distrust is even more damaging than despair. Whereas despair hijacks your personality to manipulate your emotions, distrust hijacks your thought processes to defeat one of the more prominent good actors in your mind. Enter your voice of reason. This transpires because your physical and spiritual thought processes feed into your voice of reason to establish harmony between your spiritual and your physical mind, as you can see by the image to the right. Now, here is where distrust comes in to the equation and why its counter operations are some of the deadliest within your thought dimension. Consider this carefully, for we have all been here before. Distrust feeds your thought processes with all the questions that derive from despair, i.e., the first phase in the progression of doubt. The abundance of these questions will overwhelm your ability to reason, which will lead you to withdrawal, i.e., the second phase in the progression of doubt. The reason you will withdraw is sure, as distrust overwhelms your thought dimension with questions, neutralizing your ability to reason. The mind will be filled with confusion, a degree of lawlessness we will discuss in future lessons. Now, as you would expect, this confusion will lead to misunderstanding, which in turn will lead to distrust and a complete lack of confidence in the thought generated by your CPU, informed as it were. 'Tis a key matter which confirms the following inflection point. The progression of doubt not only causes you to question the Father's will, it also causes you to question your thought processes. Here lies an extreme trouble vis-a-vis when you question your thought processes, you make it impossible to achieve unity within your thought dimension. Here again, this is why many become mentally unstable and double-minded. It's not only because distrust is destroying their faith in the Father, it's also because distrust is destroying their faith in themselves. No doubt, this is a key operation which allows Satan to exert control over an individual by causing them to lack confidence in the Father and themselves. He is positioning himself to control their minds via this power play of doubt. And distrust plays the focal role in this deception. All I need is myself. Now, the neutralization of reason is perhaps one of the most damaging events that could possibly occur in our minds. You'll know when someone has gone down this path because they will take actions contrary to their nature and often quite insane. And if you cry out to them saying, "Won't you listen to reason?" they won't hear you. They can't hear you, for they have compromised their ability to reason due to their stronghold of distrust. And if they don't trust themselves or the Father, there's a very good chance they are not going to listen to you. This development opens the door wide for them to fall quarry to the critical degree of doubt. Enter self-reliance, a great peril that emits a force that transcends your thought dimension. It is that powerful. Consider this interest point and beware, my friends. The hijacking of your personality and your thought processes results in an ulterior version of you known as self. Look here, it's time for our first revelation in this lesson. Although there are many enemies you will face in your quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life, there are 7 that are superior to the rest. These are the 7 greatest enemies you will ever face in your life. And one of these is the imposter, formerly known as self. As you would expect, self evolves in a mental environment filled with despair and distrust. This environment causes us to believe there is no one internal or external to us who we can trust. Alas, we can't even trust ourselves. Now, this perilous position will often lead to 2 disastrous outcomes. On the one hand, many who fall into this trap will become extremely depressed, which will often lead to suicide or other antisocial behavior. And this will be to the delight of Satan, for he is a murderer, and he was a murderer from the beginning. On the other hand, many in this sunken state will develop a new personality. Vis-a-vis, despair will not lead them to depression. Rather, it will lead them to create a new and improved version of themselves, one that can be trusted because it possesses qualities that your former personality did not possess. This is not true, mind you, but it is what the individual in question will believe, is what they need to believe to establish some kind of order within their mind. And yet, this order is not after the spirit of Elohim. Rather, it is after the kingdom of darkness and the seductive forces of lawlessness. This is why it reflects Satan, formerly known as Lucifer, in every way. Look here, this new and improved personality, i.e., self, is narcissistic, myopic, proud, and vain. And that's just the beginning. What is more, it tragically sets the stage for these individuals to become self-reliant under the following premise. I can't rely on the Father. I can't rely on my family. I can't rely on my friends. But I can rely on this new and improved version of me. I can rely on myself. All I need is myself. These sentiments, no doubt, lead to the third and final phase of the progression of doubt. Enter opposition. This shouldn't be too hard to understand, for Satan is the enemy of Elohim and the entire creation. Therefore, all who follow his example are in direct opposition to Elohim. In the same way he will destroy Satan, he will destroy all his opponents. Now, here is the final word. The plague of doubt is everywhere. You self-rely, distrust, and despair. My dear friends, I trust you are now coming to see how deadly doubt is meant to be. Trust me, there is a reason why the enemy has situated doubt at the base of the mountain of lawlessness. There is a reason why doubt leads directly into the spiritual stronghold that controls every other stronghold. And thus, we will continue this analysis for one more podcast, and I will show you the full impact of self-reliance, distrust, and despair in your mind. I don't typically broadcast any particular podcast in advance, but hear me when I say this is one podcast you don't want to miss. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on the word you have heard today. And as always, ask the Father to reveal the truth to you. For the children of Elohim live by conviction. And if he has not convicted you, or if you had not heard him concerning these matters, you should pray until you do. Today, I want you to meditate on this detailed rendering of the progression of doubt. I want you to focus on the process in which doubt inflicts us with many strongholds. If these reflect past situations you have been in and have overcome, then I encourage you to give thanks to the Father for bringing you out of this miry clay. On the other hand, if these reflect a situation you are currently in, I encourage you to pray. Specifically, I encourage you to meditate on how you came to be in this perilous situation and repent for any missteps you may have made. After which, ask the Father to prepare your heart and mind to receive the final word I will share on doubt. For next week, I will begin showing you how you can wield the power of faith to undo any of the damage doubt may have done in your mind. And then I will show you how to keep doubt out of your mind once and for all. Until then, it is imperative that you understand your unique situation for what it is. Only then can you truly repent and defeat the strongholds doubt has created. And you will. If you follow the teaching and the training, you will. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 332, How Doubt Plagues the Mind, Part 2. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 333, How Doubt Plagues the Mind, Part 3. I will post this podcast on Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.